Hi there, Ken from Miniature Wargaming Warriors, and today I'm going to be doing a review of some models from Offensive Miniatures. It's from their Napoleonic range. They did send me these models for free for review, but I'm going to give you my honest opinion and show you what I've done with them. So first things first, let's start with the French. So we've got a French drummer here. I believe he's from the Old Guard. Don't shoot me if I'm wrong, because my Napoleonic history is not great. But you can see I've painted him up in contrast paint, as with the same with all the models. Basically what I decided to go for is I looked at the art on the Offensive Miniatures website, tried to find the models, looked for the colours, because obviously I'm not as clued up with Napoleonic uniforms as, say, somebody that actually plays it all the time. I'm really looking forward to actually using these models, because I am definitely going to be getting into Napoleonics probably within the next 6 months. So this will make a good start for free armies. I'm really looking forward to doing it. But I'm really happy with how the models turned out. You can see these metal miniatures work really well with the contrast paints, especially on the white. White used to be, well, is a real pain in the bum to paint. But with this model here, it looks absolutely fantastic. Really happy with how the trousers have come out. The only thing I would say that's a downside for my painting anyway is with the contrast paints is possibly the golds. So you can see some of the golds here. That, you know, golds, metallics with these contrast paints aren't the best, but you can always go over these with just normal gold colours. So moving on. Next French model I've got, I believe it's a Grenadier. So I've been told by Boots on the Table Dom. He's told me it's a Grenadier. Bigger guy. Really happy about like the model itself. You can just, if I just compare it, so I'll put the drummer back next to him, you can just see that, you know, he's taller, he's more broad. It just looks like an incredible miniature. And again, the contrast paints work so well with this, because how the model's actually sculpted, it creates really nice natural recesses, and that's where the contrast paints really come into their own. So if they've got a lot of recesses to get into, you get the darker tones in there, and overall I'm absolutely buzzing with how this model has turned out. Again, not too happy about the gold. I could change it up, but to get a good tabletop standard, I'm really happy with it, and I love the pose of how he's standing there with his axe. Looks amazing. So the last model is an officer for the French. Again, really happy with how he's come out. You can see the detail there just on the red, with the red on his uniform. Again, that's all with contrast paints. You know, people say it's really hard to get details, pick details out, but I've used these contrast paints a lot over the last year, and I mean I've used them a lot with a lot of models, and you don't have to slather it on like Games Workshop tell you to do. You can just pick little details out with them, and they do look really great. Again, I'm very happy with how this model's turned out. Basing material wise, I'm using Luke APS's basing materials for this. Just literally it's a dip and pull out, and it's great. But I love the sculpt on this model, how you can see him just like he's moving, he's just drawn his sword. It just looks fantastic. Okay, moving on to the Spanish. Got Spanish volunteers here. Again, did some research. Love the hats. The hats are so smart. I love the top hat. It's just awesome. And the apothecary white again on these models. That's how I've done it. So basically, to get the white, how I've got it is I've used Ulf-Wine Grey from Games Workshop. Sounds a bit weird, it's like an off-white colour, but it works really well for that base. Instead of, I know what it's like to paint natural white, it is a nightmare to cover, but if you use like just an off-white, it covers so much better. And then after that's all dried, I just put the apothecary white over it, and that you can see has made it like, you can see all the little in the recesses there, you know, it gives it like a highlight. That's more what I use the apothecary white for, is to give the model itself a highlight. Uniform colour per se, you know, I've been told that the brown is, you know, is all over the place, different colours, different shades of brown. So I've done 4 different contrast paints, and this one is the snakebite leather contrast paint. That's where I've got that brown from. So if you like it, that's what it is. The Gorgant fur is for the drumsticks. Again, very happy with how the models turned out. The sculpt itself is fantastic. Really like these models. I can't say it enough from Offensive Miniatures. They really are beautiful sculpts. Dom's done some World War II stuff, some Fallschirmjäger from Offensive Miniatures, and they look really nice as well, and I'd love to get my hands on some of those. Right, so next one, got an officer here. Again, really happy with how the models turned out. I can't complain. You know, for my first lot of Napoleonics, really enjoyed doing them. They do take a little bit longer than, say, other miniatures do. I've painted a lot of World War II stuff, and I seem to be able to paint that quicker than I do this. But the model itself, you know, look at it. It just looks amazing. You know, lost for words really. How nice these models are. Really enjoyed them. Even with the contrast paints on the top here, you can see where I've done on his hat. Just here, you got the green underneath and then the red on top. You know, they work so well, so well. Next one, just regular infantry for him, for the volunteers. Sculpt's really nice. You know, he's holding his rifle, or his musket, I should say, up. It's a marching pose. They do different poses, so they do like an advanced pose, a firing pose, and the models themselves do look really nice. Black Templar for the boots. Black Templar is probably my favourite black you can get. You get all different types, but really like the Black Templar because it does give it a shade. If you want it darker, you can just give it a second coat. But again, amazingly happy with how this model's turned out. You know, the bayonets aren't flimsy. There's some models that I've seen with different companies where you get these bayonets at the top here that are really flimsy, so they bend so easily. I'll give you an example right now. You know, Warlords, Dad's Army. I'm not shooting at Warlords, but you know, I can bend that bayonet like that. You can see it's just there. You know, I bend back, but over time, if you keep knocking it, you could end up snapping it, which you really don't want to do with these miniatures. But with these, absolutely, they're nice solid metal. Okay, we've gone for a darker uniform colour here. This is Cryo Brown, so if you like this type of brown for the volunteers. Not a big fan of that colour for these miniatures. I don't know why. I feel like the Napoleonic miniatures should pop a bit more. So I do prefer like the snakebite leather over the Cryo Brown. But you know, everyone's to their own. People can choose what they like to do. But again, model's really nice. Bayonet again, really nice solid structure. He's shouting out to his men saying, "Come on, let's get going, let's rally." Looking absolutely fantastic, the sculpt, and all the faces on these miniatures look absolutely awesome. Really nice sculpts on the faces, the beards, just fantastic. Okay, last of the volunteers. This one is probably my favourite miniature out of them all. Really like it. I don't know what it is, but the stance of how he's holding his sword, how he's moving forward like that, and how he's just looking and surveying the battlefield. Absolutely love this model. Really nice, and I really like how it turned out. So I've gone for a reddish brown sort of around the uniform, and then for the lapels and all the undergarment bits there, I've gone for like an orange. Again, just trying to copy the art from Offensive Miniatures website. Remember, when you're doing models, look on the internet for references and things, and you know, it can really help with your modelling needs. But this one, where he's got his lapels and, sorry, not lapels, I can't remember what they're called, but where it's all white, again, really stands out nicely against the orange back. His hat, fantastic, and his plume coming off his hat, I love it. Just this model itself is my favourite out of them all. Right, so we're moving on to Spanish regulars. So we've got Spanish regulars here. He's firing, really nice pose. Again, really like how these models are turning out. Doing different colours, I experimented with these. This is probably maybe one of my favourite blues that I did. It's quite bright, and for that I used Talazar blue. I did two coats of that. So this is 2 coats of Talazar blue from Games Workshop contrast range. I think the yellow for like the gold works a bit better on these, on the rifles. I think it helps the rifles pop a little bit more. But it's not a nightmare. So like, you've got the helmets here, sorry, the hats here. So used to World War II. You've got these hats, but you've got the black, and then obviously you dread getting it on the white. You know, there's loads of times that I got black over this white, but I just come along with that off-one grey, and it just covers it straight away. It's like one coat of it, and it will cover it nicely. That's why I like using that, and compared to an off-white, and you can't really tell the difference. You just can't. And this model itself, really happy. Again, the details on it are lovely. Really, really like these models. That's all. I keep saying it, but I do. I really, really like them. Another one, guy loaded. Really nice model again. Bayonet. One solid object. It's not flimsy at all. Didn't have any issues with these guys breaking or bits falling off throughout the whole time. Painted up really well. Painted up really nicely. Love again the yellow. Looks really nice, stands out really well on the white and the blue. For this one I used Ultramarines blue, just one coat of, just to see what that looks like. I've also given him some ginger hair, just like me, except for he's got a bit more at the moment after I shaved all mine off. But that's the other thing with these contrast paints, you can, different hair colours, really, really easy to do. Right, so I'm kind of getting a grips at this with Napoleonics. I'm gathering guys that have got, like, officers or, you know, senior men and stuff have these bits on the side, and I can't remember for the life of me what they're called. But he's marching forward. He's ordering his men to advance. Really nice pose. It would be classic if you didn't have one with the arm sticking out, wouldn't it? You know, you've got to always have a model with the arm sticking out. The bayonet again, you know, solid object. Backpack's looking great. I've done a bit more detail work on this. You can see I've put the Black Templar over the actual straps. Haven't bothered with them all because obviously some people just like to, you know, go in tabletop standard, just whack block colours all over and then it's done. But with this guy I spent a bit more time on just to make everything look a little bit nicer, to show you what you can do with these contrast paints. The only thing I would do with every single one of these models is after I've finished them, which I've done now, is give them a spray of matte varnish. These haven't had their matte varnish yet because I tend to do it all in a bulk batch and I've got a load more stuff that I'm painting at the moment. So that will take, if you can see a shine on these, that will take that away, that matte varnish. Or you could use a satin varnish if you like the shine, if you want them to be shiny. You know, it's your models, you can do whatever you like. But you can see the detail work here at the top there on, I want to call it his... I'm going to call it his cap badge because that's what you do in World War II. You know, it's a unit designation marker. It swings around here. You can see I've gone in with a gold, but then I've got a dib of gold on like the top there, but then it's surrounded by the red, and that's all just, you know, with brushwork with the contrast paints. So it can be done. It really can be done. And the final model, this one. A lot of people say they like this model that I've spoken to. The colour wise. This is one coat Ultramarines blue from the contrast range, and then it is one coat Leviathan blue from the contrast range. I've gone in with a sword with this one, and you can see I've, instead of using the contrast, I've used the metallics, the actual metallics. So this is the only one that's got metallics on it, and really happy again with how this model's turned out. Buttons on the back there, his trousers, everything is looking absolutely fantastic. You know, he's got his sword out, ready. Like, it feels like he's presented, like just getting ready. He's presenting his sword. He's getting ready to go into battle. You know, he's holding his sword. He's nervous. He's wants to get in there, but he's just worried. But I really like this model. This is probably my third favourite out of them all. Simple but effective. That's what I want to say about these. Simple but effective. He's really. It just looks like he's a really keen commander, you know, ready to go into battle with his troops. But again, I'm really happy with the basing, Luke APS basing, fantastic, and the apothecary white on the top there. So just to sum it up, these models from Offensive Miniatures, I'll leave a link below to their website. They do a different range. They do Napoleonics, they do some more modern stuff, so like terrorism stuff and you know, counter-terrorism forces. They also do a World War II range, which they have sent me some for. I will be painting these up. So I've got some SS, some American paratroopers, some German Fallschirmjäger, and British Airborne. I'll get these painted up and I'll do a separate video later on, some point in the next couple of months, just to show you what these are like. I will say with their World War II range, like certain things, they just seem to be a little bit more Perry miniature scale than they do Warlords, which isn't a bad thing because if you've got Perrys then fit in perfectly fine, but they will work with Warlord miniatures. Some of the rifles look a little bit small when it comes to the British stuff, but you know, it's not the end of the world. But the sculpts themselves are absolutely fantastic. I really like the SS sculpts, and I really like the American paratroopers. They are really, really nice sculpts. So I really do look forward to showing you those in the future. Once again, thank you very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, consider subscribing, and be sure to check out Offensive Miniatures. Thanks very much.